platform, Laura du Preez, joins us now. Laura, good afternoon. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Let's very first start off with the fact that, possibly the best way to experience this VAT increase is actually going through it. So I would imagine that the month of April will pretty much be exactly that, trying to find out exactly how this VAT hike affects you, and then look at your budget from that point onwards. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yes, good afternoon. It is definitely a case of we're all finding out exactly, which items are going to be affected by the VAT increase. I'm not sure if you've experienced it, but I've found that, different providers are sending out SMSs or emails or sending you letters telling you, exactly which fees and which services you pay for are going to be increased for VAT. So I don't know if you'd like me to run through the ones that will be affected and the ones that won't be affected.
Very quickly, if you could just browse through those items.
Sure. So you will obviously see, the items you expect: your food, your clothes, your household detergents, medical services, short-term insurance, even your bank charges, your municipal rates and electricity. All of those are going to be affected by the 1 percentage point increase in VAT. The things that you don't pay VAT on are things like school fees, but don't forget the cost of books and the cost of uniforms, of course, are affected by VAT. And things like extramurals, if the provider of those extramurals charges VAT, then you may find those things. When it comes to residential accommodation, if you're paying off a home loan, you shouldn't see an increase in VAT affecting you except on the charges for your actual home loan, the administration cost on your home loan account. And rent shouldn't be affected by a VAT increase. If you're buying property, you'll only be affected if you're buying from a developer. And if you're buying from a private seller, you may see some increase on the estate agent's commission. And then obviously big ticket items like household appliances and cars and things like that will be affected by the increase. Your long-term insurance policies shouldn't be affected. They should be VAT exempt, although there are apparently some sort of anomalies in the technical details in the VAT, the legislation dealing with VAT. And your retirement fund contributions shouldn't be affected. So if you want to work out, what the effect is on your budget, you need to separate those items that you will pay VAT on from those that you won't pay VAT on. And then really, you must remember that it's a 1 percentage point increase in the VAT, which is already a percentage of the base cost of something that you're buying. So if you, for example, paying R1, you're paying 14 cents of that. At the moment, you're now going to pay 15 cents. So what you need to do to work out that cost implication is to take all those things that you pay VAT on and divide them really by 1.14 and then multiply by 1.15. It's quite not everybody likes to do the maths, but really it works to kind of 88 cents on every R100.
If I could just come in there very quickly, Laura, I mean, it gives credence to the argument, this long list that you've mentioned, that really speaking, this zero rating on some of the VAT items doesn't bring too much of relief, even if you are poor, simply because much of what you mentioned now, poor people or so-called poor people are engaged in buying or consuming some of those items. Yes, very definitely. So, there's only 19 items that are zero rated for VAT of food items, and even those, I mean, it would be very hard for even the poorest person to try and survive only on buying those food items. All of us have to, for example, buy soap to shower or bath, and all of us have to, pay school fees, things like that. So, yeah, sorry, school fees were exempt, but I mean, you would have to buy school uniforms or books for school, those sort of things. So definitely, your household budget is definitely going to be affected. But you must remember that it's quite a small amount. It isn't probably a large amount, and small amounts obviously are going to affect poor people. But middle income and higher income owners, it's probably not going to amount to a lot in rand terms. But having said that, the people are definitely feeling a squeeze on their budgets, and that's for a number of reasons why that's happening, not least of which is a fuel price increase, which is coming tomorrow, between 60 and 72 cents per litre. And that's going to affect all of us and have an impact on all the costs that you pay for anything that you consume. So, anything that needs to be transported anywhere is going to be affected by a fuel price increase. And the other reason, of course, is that things like school fees and medical costs are going up by more than inflation, and that's putting pressure on people's incomes and household budgets. And then some businesses are struggling and haven't been able to pay inflation-related increases this year. So people who are unlucky enough to work for companies that haven't been able to give them inflation-related increases, obviously seeing their real income decline and their costs, for example, medical costs or education costs, rising by more than inflation. Typically, your medical scheme contributions are going up by 3 percentage points above inflation each year. Education is running at 9% a year, which is well above the current inflation rate of 4%.
So there's a lot of planning. I'm sorry, Laura, we're going to have to leave it there, but